And we're live. Welcome to the Lakers Late Night Show. I am Anthony Irwin. I'm in high definition and I'm freaking out a little bit about it. I have Harrison Faigen joining me tonight. Harrison, the game was cut a little early, so we kind of had to rush to get here. So all things considered, how you holding up tonight?
I don't know if there's anyone happier that the game was cut early than me. Because, as much fun as it was, my dog, I tweeted this earlier, my dog was looking at me like I was a lunatic because I was running back and forth from my chair to my TV to take a vine of my screen and then running back and typing furiously. And my dog, who I'm watching tonight, is just staring at me like, you're an idiot. And what is wrong with this dude? No, you know what, Jethro, my dog, I don't think that you're wrong. It was a crazy game, but it was awesome. I'm doing pretty good.
I just kind of think that's how everybody looks at you, like at all times, like no matter what's going on. It's like what
says the guy who needs his makeup for the new HD cameras.
Fair point. Oh man, I'm in a great mood because the game was fun. Larry Nance killed Festus Ezeli. My pun game was on point during the game, so that's always great. Honestly, the number one takeaway that I have from this game is that against an actual NBA team, minus probably their second best player, or third best player,
their best players,
yeah, but against something close to an NBA team or closer to an NBA team, the Lakers were fun to watch, right? Like there were highlights that you looked like guys were having fun. Roy Hibbert left the bench because Larry Nance killed Festus Ezeli. I don't know if you saw that. That was amazing. But what did your takeaway? It was awesome. It was great. He just walks away with his hands up raised, like, all right, time to go home.
Yeah, the refs should have just there should be a CBA provision where I was surprised that they didn't just call it after that because Festus Ezeli is lucky to be alive. And he should have to leave the game immediately at the very least. He's gonna be having flashbacks. His ears are ringing. I don't know. Everybody was talking about Festus Ezeli. I heard on the TNT broadcast of the Warriors preseason game the other night, they were saying he would start on almost any other NBA team, and I don't know about that, but his career's over, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You gotta come back from that.
Speaking of national broadcasts, I said, "Mama, there goes that Nance." As soon as that dunk happened, and I don't regret a second of it.
I regret every second of that.
Oh man, no. Like I said, these last 2 years, the Lakers have been incredibly boring to watch. They haven't been interesting at all. It's been painful to be a Laker fan and to watch these guys regularly. And tonight, and when the Lakers have looked good this season, they've been fun to watch. They're interesting. They're a story. So in that sense, I can't help but consider this offseason a success, because of that. Now, obviously, somebody can take that 6-second clip and cut it into a vine and send it back to me if everybody gets hurt and the team becomes uninteresting all over again. But as of right now, I can't complain about this Laker team.
Yeah, there's nothing after a night like tonight where they look so good, like you said, against I made a joke, but it was actual NBA players that were playing tonight. It wasn't Maccabi Haifa. And so it was good to see them look that good. Although, they're still going to get roasted on defense a lot of the games. Curry had almost no one else to pass to, and he was still easily just breaking guys' ankles left and right. And Curry's better than a lot of NBA point guards. That's the reigning MVP, but it goes to show that the perimeter defense is going to be a bit of a disaster area, especially if, as we all want, the young guys are starting and taking their lumps and they're allowed to learn from their mistakes. It's just not going to be great. Although Russell he had a very nice defensive play that ended up getting lost in the shuffle with all the other highlights going on. But at the beginning of the first quarter, he stripped, I'm blanking on who it was. It wasn't Curry. It was the other guard that the Warriors started. And he stripped him, took it full court, went around his back, and then finished the layup, which was a great play. And that's something that I really like to see because it started with defense.
Yeah, and that's the one place, that's the number one concern with Russell as a prospect, right? Coming in was he's great on offense. He has great vision, handles the ball well, can shoot fairly well at least. But defensively, that's where the concerns were. And yeah, if he learns to utilize that length, because he's really tall for a point guard, that's a great thing to see. Other point guards that we saw tonight, we saw Marcelo Huertas for the first time tonight. What was your how were you watching that experience? Twitter was ablaze. He impressed me.
I mean, I was watching that experience by running to go film the TV screen. No, I mean, he was awesome. Like, the no-look passes were like Nash reminiscent a little bit. You hate to hype a guy up that much off of
the runners
game. Yeah, so he's going to be a 2-time MVP. That much is obvious. He came over. He's about to take over the league. He's going to win Rookie of the Year this year. Going to be unstoppable. No, but he was really good, and it just showed that having someone who's a little bit more experienced could be really valuable for this bench right now. Just how much better that bench looked with him running the show, rather than Nick Young taking it down or Lou Williams taking it down. Lou Williams was competent, but Huertas was actually looking to make plays, and he knew where guys were going to be and that they were going to be open before they were even open. Like you saw in that little touch pass that he had to Nick Young for his first three in that sequence where he hit a couple of them.
I was really impressed with him. I mean, you kind of saw everything that you wanted to see as a Laker fan, in that now the Lakers have that backup ball handler who can create for others that you weren't sure that they were going to have. You look at his numbers in 12 minutes, 6 assists, and only 1 turnover. And the entire time he was on the court, he looked really in control of the offense and how he ran it. Those runners looked, I mean, the passes, were I guess, Nash-esque. But where he reminded me the most of Nash were those runners. He had those two kind of back-to-back, where one was off the backboard and then one was straight into the hoop. And I think he airballed his very first shot. But when you're looking at a point guard to come in with that second unit, and you have scorers like, Nick Young and Lou Williams, all you need is somebody to get that offense rolling, and he looks like he could very easily step into that role.
Yeah, and so I want to go back to the other night. We talked about potential roster cuts. Do you feel more comfortable now with Huertas making the final cut? Because the other night you were saying you weren't sure if they should really be guaranteeing him anything if he's already having hamstring issues. So now that you've seen him play while healthy, you feel like he should probably get one of those 14 or 15 spots?
I'd say so. And I mean, it kind of goes without saying. I stand by what I said back then, that had he not played at all this preseason, I wouldn't have been comfortable cutting somebody else for him. But yeah, with having, now played and showing that he understands the offense and his role, definitely. And also because the Lakers don't have anybody else who would fulfill that role. They don't have that, currently on the roster. They don't have anybody who can be that point guard to set up the offense with that second unit. So, yeah, I think that's pretty easily stated. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that can get Sacre a pick and roll, dunk off of a pick and roll deserves to make the team. I think that's like the ultimate test. He even got Sacre to catch one of his passes. So,
well, it was great too, because there was one play where the play that he got Nick Young, I think Young hit a corner 3-pointer on the play, but Sacre was rolling to the basket and the ball was fired right between Sacre's hands to get to Young. And I thought that was tremendous. That takes some kind of vision.
I was laughing about that one because I was doing the vines, and so I had those back to back in my little post on Huertas, and it looks like exactly the same pass, except for one of them, the ball just goes straight through Sacre's hands to Young.
Yep. Yeah, that was.
So he's so good. He has 2 open guys lined up on each pass in case the first one misses it.
Yep. Yeah, I can't complain, man. I keep on saying that I can't complain. It's because I've done so much complaining the last 2 years. Like, Laker fans have done so much complaining about the rosters the front office has put together, and yeah, I mean, Matt Moore from Hardwood Paroxysm kind of gave me a little hard time. It was tongue in cheek when he said it, but I liked the Robert Upshaw, Larry Nance front court. They offer a lot. They're really long. They're both really athletic. Larry Nance kills people. I guess that's what we were going to get to next anyway. You mentioned Robert Sacre finally finishing on a pick and roll, rolling to the basket. Did you see enough from Nance and Upshaw to get spots for those two?
I have them making it anyway. I didn't think there was any possible way Nance was getting cut after they just used the first round pick on him. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question for me is more Upshaw, and I think that I've definitely seen enough from him this preseason to justify keeping him around. And I get the argument from some people that who would you be more comfortable putting in an NBA game right now, Upshaw or Robert Sacre? If you're Byron Scott, it's probably still Sacre because you know exactly what you're going to get from him. You aren't going to get the rookie mistakes. Yeah, you don't have as much upside, but if you're trying to get wins this year, Sacre may be more helpful. And so, but I still think that Upshaw has shown enough this preseason in his floor time that he's worth keeping around and potentially spending a lot of time in the D League this year. But at least the Lakers send him to the D League and let the Lakers control him down there rather than cutting him. And yeah, he's on the defenders, but anybody can call him up.
Right. I completely agree. And I thought there was some artistic, it felt symbolic, you know, when you're looking at Nance and Robert Upshaw playing right after Ryan Kelly and Robert Sacre. And, you know, they went out there, they did what you would expect from them. You know, Kelly had a nice block and a nice finish on a layup, and Sacre had that dunk that we mentioned earlier. But the wow plays came from Upshaw and Nance, and that wow factor has been painfully missing from the Lakers, you know, in recent years, and because of that, I'm fine with keeping those guys around for obviously Nance. I agree with you. There's no way he wasn't going to make it, but Upshaw's upside is so hard to just pass up. And one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I find this incredibly interesting, is how there's this huge chasm. There's this huge divide between how, you know, I've had Shahan Ahmed from NBC LA on the show. You and I, with Lakers Outsiders, had Eric Pincus on the show, and both guys mentioned that Sacre just makes more sense for these Lakers. But if you look at the way we look at those guys, and then you also factor in how fans look at the two players, there's a huge divide in what people think of them. What are you making out of that? I think a lot of it has to do with how great a guy Sacre is.
I think it's how great, because being in the locker room for my first time, just to big time you last weekend, Sacre is a great guy. He's hilarious. And he's someone that you would want to be around. And so I think that a lot of that comes down to who you're exposed to. I don't think that anyone can ever be completely unbiased. Mm-hmm. And so they're those guys, they talk to people in the organization that promote that we need Sacre right now because he's NBA ready. That type of narrative. They've been around Sacre for a couple years. He's been, I'm sure, nothing but nice to them for the most part. Mm-hmm. And then you have us who are not in the building the majority of the time, and we want to cling to hope for the future after a couple miserable years that Sacre has been part of. He's been part of 3 of the worst years in Lakers history. So I think there's a stain on his resume for a lot of fans because of that, whereas the media, the guys that are around the team that day, all the time may see him almost as a comrade in arms. Like he's someone who's been there during some miserable years in the franchise, and he's been around and he's been pleasant to them. And maybe they would want him on the team, and maybe he does make more sense if you're trying to get more wins this year. I think that we as fans see the bigger picture, and we don't necessarily care as much about that. And we want the franchise to do well in the future. Whereas the guys around the team, maybe, I'm not saying the reporters, I'm saying the people in the organization, they want to get wins right now because miserable to just be losing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's do you understand? Am I making sense? There's kind of a chasm there, I think, between the goals of the people that we're around. We're on Twitter, we're talking to each other, we want that upside and we want something exciting to root for. Whereas the people in the organization just want to know what they're getting from guys on a night-to-night basis. They want that consistency.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where they're coming from on that. I just don't think it makes very much sense. What do the Lakers need wins immediately for? Obviously for Byron, it's for your job. That's how you're graded. So I get where he's coming from. But for the organization, it's kind of like, well, if they win, they win. Awesome. If not, just grow. Just keep on growing and have that upside. And like if I was the Spurs or if I was some kind of contender, I'm not saying that Sakura doesn't belong in the league. Now, it's kind of damning that he's going to get passed up for by one of the best or worst teams in the NBA. That doesn't help his resume very much. But he's still a big guy. I think, like everybody says, he understands his role on any given team. He's a really, really nice guy. But it's kind of like, I kind of look at it as a blind date, right? Where on a blind date, if your friend is trying to talk you into going on a blind date, what do and the first thing they're trying to sell you on is, well, she's a really nice person. A lot of people are passing up on that date, like, oh, that's all you got, huh? That's all you got going for you? And it's an extremely shallow thought, and I apologize for everybody out there who's going to yell at me for being shallow.
I was going to say, this got Texas real quick.
No, but, with Sakura, it's kind of like, well, you're nice. He's a nice guy. Great. That doesn't help me win basketball games. The same way if Upshaw's upside comes to pass, that doesn't, I'd much rather have the upside from Upshaw than Sakura going in and making everybody laugh all the time. That's, that's my opinion.
And ultimately, I think that line of thinking will win out in a well-run organization, or unless there's something that we don't know about Upshaw. Like we also have to understand that that's on the table, given how murky kind of the reporting has been about what exactly went on to get him kicked out of 2 schools, and what he's been up to since he got to the Lakers, which seems to be on the up and up completely. Like we haven't heard anything bad, but we don't know if there are mitigating circumstances that we aren't aware of. So that's another thing that I think is the difference between like the guys that you were talking about, Pincus and Ahmed, bringing them on your podcast and talking to them, versus people like me or people like, Ben Rosales. Or you. They know things maybe a little bit more than we do, and the organization knows things that we don't know. So I think that that's really the only reason why, if it was a choice between Sakura and Upshaw, which it seems like is what it's going to come down to, that Sakura would win out.
And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're talking about the 12th guy on a team hoping to win 35 games. It's not win or lose, or it's not, this isn't a franchise making decision.
Championship or bust, dude. We beat the Warriors tonight.
Fair point. Championship or bust. We're gonna get that. I guarantee you. It's gonna pop up in Silver Screen and Rolls mentions. That's gonna happen. All right, so I have a couple things left on the docket here. I'd like to introduce a game that I'm going to call the Wambulance, and this is a shout out to all the parents who got sick of their kids whining. I get sick sometimes of seeing fans kind of whine a little too much about the Lakers right now. So the way this game works is I'm going to present a scenario that seems positive. And what we're going to do is we're going to spin it in a negative light hilariously, or at least try to be hilariously.
Yeah, we're going to try to be funny. I mean, let's not assume that we're going to be hilarious.
We probably won't be hilarious. But if we get a couple chuckles,
I'm a masterful artist, but we'll see. Exactly. You're probably just going to turn whatever it is into a pun. And so?
All right, so for the first scenario, I'm going to shout out to the best moments of the game tonight and say that Larry Nance has that crazy dunk on Festus Ezeli I'll get us started because I'm kind of throwing this on you, and then you got to come up with a scenario that you can throw in my lap, and that'll do it for the game. For me, the negative side to that, if I was going to spin that story and that moment negatively, I would say that Larry Nance is coming off of an ACL tear, and by trying to kill people like that and jumping so freaking high, he can't do that regularly. Because one, it's not fundamental. If you're dunking over somebody, somebody else might be open on the court. And two, you're risking injury. You just can't do that thing. So, Larry, I greatly enjoyed the moment. That was a great dunk. But right here on the wambulance at 9:39 on a Saturday night, I'm going to go ahead and say, you can't do that. That's just not right. It's disrespectful. Respect the game, Larry. Bat flips, you can't bat flip in basketball. What do you got?
For Larry Nance, right?
Yeah, so how would you, if you were the world's biggest pessimist,
I'm close.
How would you spin that? 10. Yeah, you're right there. You are really like
I'm gonna tie back to what you said about the kind of the bat flip, because I've seen the GIF going around of Larry Nance giving the Jordan shrug coming back up the court. So Larry Nance Jr. is going to get overconfident and start being a problem in the locker room because he thinks he's Michael Jordan at this point. And so he's going to be grousing to start. He's going to be complaining that he doesn't know his role when he's sitting on the bench and not playing. He can't do it. He can't do it unless he's playing with the starters. And he's going to have a bad attitude in practice. He's going to be trying to fight Randall and Bass and those guys starting over him at the 4. And just, Larry, you need to keep that insane ego that you have in check.
Exactly. And, I just got a YouTube comment from a guy named El Giorgio, who isn't a very big fan of our game, who simply says, F you guys. But he didn't say F. He spelled out the word. So, hey, El Giorgio. All right, what do you got for what am I going to turn into or what are you going to start? You can start this one. Which positive scenario are you going to lob towards us?
Okay, so positive scenario from tonight's game. Okay, so Huertas, dicing up the Warriors in the second quarter, I think don't you think that, couldn't you see it leading to Byron sending D'Angelo Russell back to the bench? I'm cheating a little bit because we talked about this before the show, but I don't even know if this is totally out of play since he's already referenced he likes D'Angelo with those shooters off the bench. He likes having him in that lower pressure role. Yeah. Like if Huertas is starting, I hope you're happy, Huertas, because now you played so well, you're going to be starting in the regular season, and you ruined this for us. We had the sensible starting lineup with Kobe and Hibbert and the young guys, and you ruined it. Okay, you came back from your hamstring tear and you ruined it. So thanks a lot.
All right, that's the sad part is I can kind of see that happening. All right, so I'm going to say. Because Huertas was so unselfish out there, eventually he's going to get sick of being unselfish, and he's just going to start hoisting from everywhere on the court. And he's going to, when players are asking, hey, Huertas, that was an easy read. I was wide open from the corner 3. He's going to say, I'd imagine he has a great Argentinian accent that
please don't try to do it.
That I'm not going to try to do because it'd be extremely offensive. But no, he's gonna say to Nick Young and to Lou Williams, I was open. You guys get to take all the shots. It's Huertas time. Huertas, I didn't see where you were as I was coming around the corner on that pick. So way to go, Huertas. You played so well that you're gonna take D'Angelo Russell's starting spot, and you're now going to become a ball hog because you got sick of making all those passes.
Swaggy H. No, the funniest part of that whole breakout was I had some dude tweeting at me in Silver Screen and Roll that apparently just had broken his caps lock, because it was like 3 times he was tweeting at me about Huertas, and he's like, "Who this Mad Max looking dude coming in off the bench?"
He's Mad Mark. He's Mad Mars. All right, so that was fun. We're gonna have to tweak it maybe a little bit, but that was a fun little game.
Give me more prep time, really. I mean,
yeah, these things happen.
Terrible.
I'm a terrible host. I am not as good at setting up my teammates as Mad Mark.
I hope your mom reprimands you for this.
Hi, Mom. All right, so last thing before we go, as great as the game was and as fun as the Lakers were to watch tonight, and as entertaining the basketball was that we were able to take in, the number one and by far the best news story over the last couple days has been the continued improvement that has been reported on Lamar Odom's end. We recorded a show 3 days ago that, as we were recording, I had TweetDeck up, I had Twitter up as we were recording, just getting ready to, all right, well, I'm sad to report, blah, 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 blah. I am extremely, extremely excited to announce or to continue to report that Lamar Odom he was awake today. He texted people. He asked to see his kids. So that honestly, no matter how fun the game was, that Lamar takes the cake, right?
Yeah, no, easily. Like I would have had the Lakers win 0 games this season for Lamar to be okay. I mean, I think that's and I wouldn't have even thought about it. Mm-hmm. And it just, like, to have it go from such a grim prognosis, like you were talking about, where it didn't seem like he was going to make it from everything that was coming out, and to now where it sounds like he may actually have some semblance of his old life back. I mean, he's not going to, I wouldn't imagine he's going to be like playing in the NBA again or anything like that, but I think that was over for him anyway. But just the fact that he's going to be able to be Lamar Odom still. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to say that because we don't know for a fact, but yeah, it's just it's a promising sign that he may get back to being Lamar Odom. Mm-hmm. And he might end up being okay even after all of this, which is like you said, that's the best news of the weekend easily.
Well, for me, and this is something that I've seen, from Twitter, the best tweets or the most poignant points made on Lamar Odom was that we hope that he pulls through so that he can see the amount of love that has been, sent his way as he deals with this. And you have to imagine that, while he was awake, there were plenty of tweets shown to him, if there were tidbits taken from articles written about him and the signs of support from throughout the NBA sent his way. If he saw any of that because he was able to pull through, that is amazing. That is great. And again, I always kind of lean towards, I'm always a little bit more interested in the human element of professional sports. And in this instance, you have such a human story where you have somebody literally suffering, fighting for their life. And it looks like Lamar, he's made progress, and there are people from the Lakers who are saying that they think they're comfortable saying that he's going to pull through. And just again, this was so cool to see. It's been awesome to see all the articles written about him. Everybody wanted to make sure that their 2 cents were heard on Lamar because he's such a great guy. And if he was able to see any of that, because he fought and pulled through, that's freaking awesome. So continue to send to send the prayers and positive vibes his way.
Yeah.
All right. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. This was Lakers Late Night. Make sure you check out. I can't overstate how informative Shahan Ahmed was of NBC LA. He was a great guest. We didn't have as much time as I'd like. I almost never have as much time as I'd like with these guests on the Lakers Lounge. On the Lakers late night, I'm fine with the amount of time I get with Harrison. But with
mutual.
But yeah, check out all the shows there on iTunes. Thank you everybody for tuning in, for the continued success that we've had with these broadcasts and with all the podcasts. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Harrison, for joining tonight. Are you going to any games this week?
Yes, I will be covering live on Monday and Thursday, actually. So Monday they're playing at Staples again, and then Thursday they're actually coming to my hood. They're going to be playing in Honda Center in Anaheim.
There you go. It's also my hood, kind of, sort of. So, no, thank you very much, Harrison, for joining. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. My name is Anthony Irwin. You can find me. I changed my Twitter at. I'm at Anthony Irwin LA. I'll give an update on that. Why that change
only
took
for
place.
follows, man.
Why that change took place this week. This is at HM Faigen, right? At HM.
Yep. HMFAIGEN.
There you go. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to sign off. Enjoy your weekend.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Anthony.